Hello, welcome to March news video. It's becoming usual for me to shoot these videos at the end of the month because during the month I'm just swamped in things and trying to navigate through all the complexities, and besides I'm experiencing the month. So I guess in a way these news videos are like a retrospective thing on what has been happening on my month and what I think will happen on my future month. So I can tell you about what's been happening on my life during March, so you have a little bit of an understanding of where we are, where I am. I mean, I said we because I'm thinking about Fran and me, but it's me on the channel, but I'm living with my wife, so it's like us anyway. So man, March has been super intense. February was intense for sure. I'm taking several classes. Some of them are. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the classes that I'm taking. So I'm taking a class on realism, which is really interesting. I really love realist theater. So it's realism on the theater. It's like a realist aesthetic. It's not realism in philosophy, which is the underlying assumptions that there are real things and there's like a whole ontological side to that. No, this is like realism on theater. And it's been interesting to see to go to that class because many of the intuitions I had about realism as a style have been proved to be right, and some of them have been questioned, so it's been really interesting. That's on one end. I'm also attending a class on performance studies and performance theory, which I have to confess I'm not a big fan of performance studies theory. I'm much more of a philosophical person myself. And performance study has most to do with, it's more like a postmodern area of inquiry. So it's about the body and the relationship of bodies on stage and performativity, and I don't know, man. It's a mixed match of other areas of knowledge combined into one thing called performance studies. And now my PhD, the PhD program that I'm in, I guess it's going to change its name to Theater and Performance Studies. That's what I'm studying now. I enter a PhD in theater, and now I'm PhD in Theater and Performance Studies. So that's that. And the other class that I'm taking is a course on practical reason. I entered that because I was reading Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, and then I purchased a new edition of the. I purchased Mexico actually, and it's one of my videos. I guess from 2017, in which I talked about it. It's a critique of practical reason, and I started reading it. And I quite enjoyed the book, and I was also reading the groundings of the metaphysics of morals and perpetual peace and whatnot. Like this short essays by Kant, and I thought, man, practical reason, the critique of practical reason, it's about Kant. Kant was on the syllabus. It was also Hume and whatnot, Rawls, Peter Singer, and I was like, oh, those are people that are interesting. I'm gonna take that course, and man, it's been hard. It's been hard because it's a lot of read, and it's ethical philosophy. That's the real course that I'm taking. It's a crash course on practical reason from the side of ethical philosophy, and it's just things that I'm not accustomed to, and technical language or technical philosophical language that I am not used to because it's not on my tradition. So the first class I got in was like the teacher was talking about utilitarianism and the ontologist and the Hellenistic view and the egotic perspective on, or egoist perspective on ethics, and I was like, what are they talking about? I thought we were going to talk about Kant's practical reason. But in reality, like here in the US, that's one thing that I've found. In every big country, I guess, but countries who are like big potencies or have a huge history of producing things like intellectually or culturally, they get grounded in their own subset of experiences and thought processes. So when I was living in Germany, there was a whole specific German world that you need to know in order to be there, like certain thinkers and modes of thinking and traditions. Same for England. Like when I was in the UK, the first months that I was in London, I understood nothing. Everybody was talking like they had a common language. Like we all should know the places in London so we can navigate through London. Oh, of course you know about the history of Britain. You know who Nelson is. Like, of course you do. So when I arrived to the US, it's practically the same thing. These last 8 months have been me trying to understand more or less the traditions in here. And I realized there's a lot of things that other people have been taught in school, and I have no relation to any of this. Like, all these words of practical reason, like gerontology and utilitarianism and whatnot, I have no idea any of that existed, but it's there, and it has a long-standing tradition in the, like in, I'm sorry, I touched the camera. It has a long-standing tradition in English, so it's even more far away from me, because before a few years before now, like I will say 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I was not reading philosophy in English at all. So I started very late, and I've been trying to catch up, but there's so much to read, and there's so many authors, and there's like a zeitgeist of the English philosophers and writers that is very specific, and it's like a very, very conceptualized and organized mental space that functions in a certain way, which is not comparable to thinkers in German or in Spanish, and they function differently, and they worry about different things, and they conceptualize things in a different way. So I've been wrestling with that thing for several months now. That's another thing that I've been doing. So aside from the reading that I have to do, which is a lot, like I have to read long essays and long papers for every single class, plus we have colloquiums once or twice a month, depends on the month, and I have to read papers for that too, and talk, because the colloquium is like everybody from the theater department gathers around, and we read the chapters from one of the dissertations somebody's writing. So we all comment on it and give feedback and whatnot, and it's a useful tool for the theater department to feel like to have a cohesive body of work, so we're all talking more or less about the same thing, and we're connected, and we know what we're all researching. But at the same time, that adds up a lot of studies that we need to tackle, and readings that we need to finish in order to have some feedback and have something constructive to say, which is not usually, I mean, it's not always easy. If you read something that is like an easy read, of course you may, and it has some obvious flaws, you may say, oh, you know, this chapter is not well developed, or this idea is not going where I thought it would go. You could maybe, I don't know, deepen this concept and it will be fine. But when you read a chapter of a dissertation from somebody who's like on the 7th year of the PhD, and they give you like a complex reading of sorts, giving feedback, man, it's really tough. It's a tough thing. So that's what I've been doing for these last months. And on March specifically, I've been swamped with my papers, because I have to write my thesis. Here's how it works. I guess I've told you before, but in case you have no idea, or you're new into this Newsvideo, my PhD works that I get into this thing, and the first year I have to get my MA, which is the master's, and then by the third year, I think so, the second year I'm TAing, so I gotta teach or assist a teacher, and then I get my master's in philosophy, the MPH, and then I apply to get my PhD, and my PhD will be like I start on the 4th, 5th, and 6th year. And then by the 6th year, I should be able to have my PhD, unless I ask for another year, and then it will go to my 7th year. But 7th year is like the plan overall, 6 or 7 years. So, man, what can I tell you? It's like writing the MA for this thing, it's been really intense. Because it's not only that, I have to write other 2 papers, like one for not for practical reason, luckily, but I have to write one for the theaters of the real, like the theaters and realism class, and I have to write another paper for the performance studies. And I chose complex subjects for all my papers and researches, because otherwise, if I'm just gonna write about, I don't know, I like the challenge of writing something, and I like researching, and I like trying to come up with ideas and produce something that might be interesting for somebody else. The issue is that in order to produce something that is interesting for somebody else, you need to spend a lot of time researching. And you need to spend a lot of time trying to understand new things and coming up with comprehensive ways of explaining things that are really complex and that I barely grasp. So I'm up to my, like, the utmost extreme of my level of cognition and thought processability. I'm always like on my limit. And there have been days, guys, where I feel like I'm about to break. Like, not breaking like, oh, I'm gonna have an emotional breakdown and just cry, or like cry and feel really bad about myself. That's not the issue. Like the other day I was reading some things from my practical reason class, and I read 3 papers which were extremely complex and extremely long, and once I finished them I got a mail from the teacher and it's like, oh, by the way, in case you didn't know, those are not the papers for next week, these are the papers for next week. And I had to read two more papers for a class that was due in like 2 more days. So that on top of everything that I'm doing, and it's, I feel like my mind is about to like overflow or break. Like at one point I'm not gonna be able to discern what's important and what's not, because I'm constantly consuming content ideas and trying to grasp thought process of other people. So I'm like, it's like going to a gym, but like a mental gym 24/7 all day, and I go and I read, and then I write complex things and try to grapple them in my head, and then I go to class and talk about what we read and what we thought and what we read, and oh man, it's been intense. So on top of that, I'm keeping up with the channel the best way I can and trying to be here as much as I can, but it's been really complex. Oh, this is not to complain and say, ah, poor me, No, it's just to like let you know what the process is. In case any of you has any desires to get into a PhD, this is what you're getting into. This is the real reality of the whole situation. It's intense. So that's one thing. And the other thing is some news that have been happening on the background, and I have not told you yet because I've been thinking of what to do, how to do it, and how to implement it and when to implement it. So here's a few things that might happen or that I want to make it happen. First thing is I'm traveling to Chile on July. So I'll be there for 2 weeks. I'll be playing with the band. I will play some dates in Chile. We're trying to organize something in outside of Chile. But what will probably happen is I'll go there and play some shows and then come back. I'm gonna be there just 2 weeks. And then I have May, June, July, and August free, or like half of May. But in reality, what's gonna happen is we're gonna move out of this apartment in May. It's really close to the university, which is good, but it's really far from Fran's office, which is bad. It's not expensive for what it is in Manhattan, which is good. But we have no sunlight, we have no sunlight, and that is really bad. It's not bad for me, I don't mind. I could live in a bunker, I could live like underground and never have windows. I really don't mind having sunlight at all. But my cats do. Like my cats are depressed, or they don't look happy. And I know this might sound stupid for some people, but I love my cats. Like I love Hamburguesa and I love Cereal, and these are cats that they've been with me since, you know, we were in Chile, and they've been traveling with us, and we cuddle them at night and we kiss them during the day, and we just they're part of our family. Like it's a family of 4. It's Fran, me, and 2 cats that come with us, and I don't feel like they are my cats. I feel like the cats have been invited to our life and we're just sharing it. So the fact that they're not happy, and like Cereal is actually really sad. She loves having sunbath. When we were in Hastings, there was a lot of light coming over, because the apartment in Hastings had a lot of windows, and there was light coming from the kitchen, and then the sunlight would move throughout the whole apartment, and you could see Cereal like sleeping on the floor in different windows as the day passed by and progressed, and the light was finally leaving the whole thing. They had a window, they could look out and they could see seagulls and people passing, and they were really happy. And in here, like the windows lead to a backyard, which nothing happens ever. There's no sunlight, and there's like a constant sound of a motor, which is, I don't know, working the heating system or something. So it's really not a motivating environment for a cat at all. And if we stay here for another year, like they're gonna be really sad, and I don't want them to be sad. So we're gonna move out of here. We're gonna go to Brooklyn, and that's gonna be by mid-May. We already went to see an apartment, we liked it, and we're gonna go there. and that's gonna happen, but that's gonna happen in 2 months. So, but we had to pay the broker's fee, which is a crazy amount of money. I've never paid so much money for a broker's fee, but we had to do it because finding those apartments that we wanted to find was hard. On top of that, we have to pay for moving everything. We have a bed which is really complex to assemble and disassemble, so we're gonna spend a few days doing that too. All of this, like searching for a flat and visiting apartments and whatnot, has been happening while I'm doing things for the channel, while I'm doing my master's thesis and the papers and going to class and reading. So you can tell I'm really stressed out, but I'm fine. I mean, I'm surviving, and I think the worst, no, not the worst happened, because usually the last weeks are the most intense. But for now, I'm like calm. I have some time to sit down and record this video and tell you what's happening. So that's on the side of the house and life. Regarding the channel though, some other things have happened. The people from Lomography contacted me because they wanted to send me some things, like if I wanted to show a camera or some film and whatnot, and I said that I would love to try some film. So I'm trying to negotiate if they would send me some film. I don't know. There's also the Polaroid bag for the Long CA, which I would really love to try. They also said they would try to get me one. So far they just say, yeah, that'll be cool, and they have not replied. So that's all the conversations that I've been having. Since I'm gonna be not doing things for university for 3 months, but I mean, I'm gonna move out of this apartment, so it's not doing nothing, but I'll have more time on those three or 4 months, like May, June, July, half of July, part of August, and part of May. I guess June is the only month that I'm more free. But I'll be going to Seville for 1 week in the first week of May, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's something that's gonna happen too. So there's gonna be a lot of movement in my life during these months, and at the same time, I'm finally gonna have some time to shoot some film. So I've been thinking about a project that I would love to do, because ever since I got here, I have not shot a single project, and I am not happy in the place where my photography is right now. I am simply not happy. I don't feel motivated. I'm always tired. I'm like, I should go out and shoot some film, but like I have to read this 200 pages book for 2 more days, so I can't do it. So I'm not going out and taking pictures as much as I would love to, and I have no pictures to show you, and therefore I have nothing to present for my Instagram or for you guys on my YouTube channel. So it's like this constant hovering of, you need to do things, you need to do things, you need to do things. So I have to do things. I have to make a project. So I was thinking of making a project during these months. I purchased a bunch of T-Max 3200, like a bunch. Not 200 rolls, but enough to make a project, and I was thinking of making one. I don't like that film though. That's my issue. I've developed like 4 rolls of it, and it's just so grainy, and it's like I'm not enjoying it. So yeah, that's one issue that I have. I need to think if I want to do the project with that film in particular. But I have so much of it, and I really want to make a project, and maybe I can make the grain work. I have to choose a camera and a kind of project. I have some ideas. I would love to follow people instead of just rambling around the city and the streets and trying to find things. I would love to make like some kind of short documentary of sorts. That's where my head is right now. Also, the other thing that is happening in the background is I want to publish my the book about the marches that I've been telling you about for so long. And the issue is now, since I don't have much time, I'm not sure I want to publish it like a proper book. And maybe I'll just make it a scene, which is something that when I was back in Hastings, I was like, no, this needs to be a proper book. I don't want it to make a scene. These pictures are too important. And they are. Historically, they are important to me, for my personal history, for my country's, like Chile's history, or my home country's, Chile's history. It's important too in the recent history. But in reality, I'd much rather put the images out there and then just make it happen than keep waiting for something much better to you know, publish it and try to make it like a really nice edition. Probably I'll just make a scene and that'll be enough. So that's good. I'm thinking about that because all the scenes that are published, like A Parade of Strangers and Several Hours Ahead, they're coming here. They're coming on a boat to the US. So I'll have some of them in 2 months' time. So I was thinking that would be great to, once I open my Etsy shop again, I could be selling some new scenes too. So I have A Parade of Strangers and Several Hours Ahead that I still have a few copies, but also have copies from this other project that I have, and it will be interesting. I think I would love to do that. I'm thinking about getting into 8mm film cameras again. I purchased one when I was in Hastings. I purchased a Bolex, and I also got a Niso, but the Niso was just not on my alley. It needed a special batteries, and it wasn't able to shoot in manual. So at the end I was like, okay, just it doesn't matter. I'll just try to make it happen on my own rhythm. So I sold the Niso, and the Bolex is coming from Hastings. It's coming on the boat that is bringing the, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the camera, at the monitor. Oh man, my hair is really flat. So it's coming to here from Hastings. That will happen too. But I've been thinking about shooting some 8mm film. I purchased 2 tanks of Lomo tanks for developing 8mm reels. And 18 and 16mm reels. I tried one and it wasn't really working. I think I'm gonna have to make some water experiments again and see how the chemicals work and how to, because you gotta tilt the whole thing, and there's like some I don't know, it's not as easy as I thought it would be. So probably that's one thing. Are you interested in that? Now that I say it out loud, that might be interesting. Like some kind of vlog of me trying to understand how developing 8mm film at home. That would be a nice vlog. Probably, I don't know. I think that would be interesting. That's something that I would love to see if I were not me, and I would be like, oh yeah, maybe I can get into 8mm film too, if it's not too expensive. I hope it's not. It looks like it is, but I hope it's not. That's another thing that I've been thinking. And a bad thing that has happened is this one. So I purchased the Electro, the Yashica Electro 35, and as you can see, I put it a battery, and wait, can I show it? Yeah, you see there the light. There's a light. It turns on. So I got a battery for this one, but the issue is, even though it has a battery, it doesn't work. Like, I don't know what's happening. I have no idea how it should work, and I don't have the time to figure it out either. So it's not as easy as just putting the battery and getting on with it. So I'm in a way, I'm asking permission not to make an episode about this camera and just send it to the patron, to the person who won it on the raffle, because it will take me some time to realize like all the variables that are involved in this. I don't know what's wrong with it. Every time I take a picture, it just gets stuck on the open shutter, and then it closes. And it's not on bulb mode, it's on auto, and it happens on auto, it happens on flash mode, it happens on every mode. I don't know what to do. I thought I'm sorry, man. There's nothing more I can do about this camera. In order to figure out how to make it work, I will need more time and resources, and that's gonna take me I don't have the time to make that happen. So what I'm gonna do, and I'm really sorry about this, I'm just gonna send this camera to the person who got it on the raffle, with the battery that I already have and the adapter, because I got a battery and an adapter. I'm gonna show it to you, actually. Look, there you go. Here's the battery and the adapter. And I wanted to make an episode about the camera because everybody said, oh, it's such a great camera, it's so amazing, and I purchased everything to make it happen, but now that I have it, I can't seem to make it work, and it's frustrating enough for me to already have very little time to make an episode happen, and I already wasted a day and a half because I went out and I was like, I'm gonna take an episode with this camera, and then it had that problem, which it was all the time in bulb mode. And then I was like, oh man, okay, I'm gonna go another day and see what happens. And then like my small Yi action camera, which is like my GoPro, stopped working. So I already wasted too much time on that camera, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make the episode happen. So I'm just gonna send it as is to the owner with a little I'm sorry note about it. I'm sorry, man. It's the first time in the history of the channel in which I purchased a camera and I have not used it. So that's sad. On the flip side, I have a lot of cameras that I have not yet used and I want to try them. I have a lot of Lomo cameras. I have a Diana, I have an Olga, I have some action sampler things. So I want to try those cameras too. And I said it before, but it would be fun to make some kind of plastic camera month. I think, yeah, I'll probably do that. That sounds fun. I'm not feeling really motivated to go out and like try to hunt images down the street. Maybe it's just a phase. I hope it's just a phase. I've been wanting to make a video about the difference between motivation and inspiration and how those two things combined. Because up to now, I've been always motivated to go outside and take some images, and right now I'm so drained that I'm not motivated. I just go out and make the episode happen and go home and edit the episode and okay, it's done, I can keep doing my thing. So that process is not healthy, and I think it's damaging my creativity for sure. So I want to tackle that on a video. Hopefully I'll make that video soon, hopefully. So that's one thing that will happen. I also have a lot of 4x5 film that I have to go through. So that's another thing that I would love to make, like an episode, like a proper shoot film episode with the speed graphics. That'll be a fun thing to do. So those are the things more or less that are happening in my life right now. Regarding the university, regarding the channel, what's about to come on the channel. Will the thing with Lomo work? I don't know. Will I make a project in the months that I'll be out? I don't know. Will I publish the scene of the marches? I don't know. None of these things, I do know them for sure. But I do have those plans, and those are the things that I've been thinking about this whole month. So I hope you're not mad that this video arrived so late in March, but as you can see, I've been really swamped with things. Anyway, April is going to be just the same, so probably the next news video will be at the end of April. Or mid or end April. That's probably when it's going to happen. So yeah, that's all I have to communicate with you. I hope you're fine with that. I'd love to know what are you up to, because usually it's just a one-way street in which I tell you my things, but I have no idea what are you up to. So, and this is not like please don't take it as a YouTube thing like, oh yeah, leave me your comments and I'll love to read them. I actually read all the comments. I don't always reply the comments, but I do read everything on YouTube and in here. Like, of course in here I read all the comments, but yeah, I'd love to know what are you up to, guys. Like, what are you doing? What's your life now? Is your life as hectic as mine? I hope not. And if so, how are you coping with that? How do you cope with this? I'm a little bit overwhelmed, to be honest. But at the same time, I am really, really glad that I have this like way out in which I can tell you what I'm doing, and I feel actually much better just by doing that, by telling you what's going on in my life. I actually feel like a little bit of a relief, so that's good. Alright, that's it. I'm gonna prepare everything and I will start shooting the episode for the photo critique, so I hope you're prepared for that, and I'll see you pretty soon. Thank you so much for your support, as always, for sticking by and just being here. Man, it means the world to me. If there's anything you would love to see soon on the channel, let me know. I'm open to suggestions, and more than anything, I want to hear about you. So let me know what you're up to, and I'll see you pretty soon. Take care. Love you all.